Hey everyone, Metagross Freak here with the second of my Toa Superior videos. This time I'm looking at Onua. It's not that I have anything against Onua. In fact, I think that Onua's 2016 Uniter form is actually one of the stronger sets in the series. Unfortunately, I had some issues with 2015's Onua, and I kind of want to be able to combine elements I like from both sets into one. Now obviously, the Onua I have for 2015 is a little more customized. I took out all these gold pieces, but I'm still planning on using as much of the original Onua and a couple pieces from, I believe it's Korgot, who's the protector of Earth, in this set to combine both Onuas into one super awesome combo model. Between the two, Onua's biggest flaw is that he has a few too many colors in his color scheme. The original Onua had black, purple, trans-purple, gold, and silver, while the new version of Onua has black, gold, trans-purple, and some silver. So we have a lot of, and some gunmetal gray. So we have a lot of colors to work with. Let's get started. Right off the bat, you'll notice Onua has a lot longer legs in his 2016 model. The 2015 model had shorter legs and shorter arms than all of the other Toa, being, I believe, either slightly shorter than or about the same length as Pohatu. However, unlike Pohatu, who had a taller torso, Onua's was shorter and wider. I think for this combo model, it'll look better to have the longer limbs. However, I'm not sure I want to use the same feet or the same armor. However, I definitely want to go with the longer limbs on this. That being said, I do still have two trans-purple upper limb pieces that I'm putting on the side. That way if I decide to switch out the gray, I can still have something. I'm not a big fan of the stud shooter function on 2016 Onua's drill weapon, so I will actually remove the little stud barrel, that clip that has extra shots. I'm not going to include that in my model because I don't feel it fits Onua that much. Like, I get that Gatling guns are associated with like the big brutish guy, like in a lot of different games and things, but I don't really feel like the Gatling gun goes with Onua's drill hammer. Comparing the feet, however, I still don't know whether I'm going to go with 2016's kind of big mech feet or 2015's, well, rather gorilla-like feet. Because of Onua's nature, I decided to do the armor pieces later, so I'm just going to put these legs to the side and we'll focus on the arms. Now for 2015's Onua's, I actually basically made it so each hand was holding a hammer, and then I added a couple skull spider feet on just for a little bit of texture and to give him some fingers, you know, on his giant kind of club hands. However, for some reason this is a really difficult piece to separate. Arms may look big and bulky, but it's really just a standard Onua hand with a friction adder used to hold both halves of the hammer. This is really difficult to separate. It took me quite a while, and I was worried about bending the pieces, but once these are connected onto a hand, they're very difficult to separate. Though, if you're looking for something to do with all these skull spider legs, there's an idea. The big problem I'm facing is that 2015 Onua's limbs use both trans-purple and solid purple, while 2016's just use purple. At the same time, 2015 also uses gold and silver, while 2016 just uses gold, so I'm trying to decide on the color scheme as I go. I know for sure, obviously, that I'm going to include some purple upper arm pieces because that looks pretty darn nice. I haven't decided whether to use the trans-purple or black bone pieces, but hey, at least I know I'm going to be having some black armor and black hands. After playing around with it, I basically have two of the exact same build. I have two trans-purple upper arm pieces, two, I guess, regular length black lower limb pieces, 2 black hands, and the flip. Oh, I have a large piece of black armor. This is to be differentiated, of course, because it's slightly larger than the. I believe this is a size 3 shell, and this is a size 4. Basically, the gold armor piece fits on differently. And that's important. But the only real difference I have here is between one has a solid purple and one has trans purple. I'm going to put both aside for now and see which one I like better once the build is done. The head is really no contest. I like the shorter blue eye stalk because it feels more like Onua than the longer light green eye stalk. So out with the gold, in with the blue. Puns. Comparing the two masks, both Onua masks are really great. However, by looking at them, I kind of like the 2016 mask a little bit more for now, but I may decide otherwise later. So I'm just going to put these to the side. It looks like I'm going to be using a lot of gold and not a lot of silver in this build, so I may not want the black and silver, and I may choose to go with the solid black, depending on what looks better with the color scheme. I'm always a big fan of weapon storage. Now, while neither Onuas have storage for their primary weapons in the builds I had, I feel you can store the giant drill a little more easily than you can these two giant hammer shovels, at least especially how I had them. In fact, that's why I added the skull spider limbs on them to give them fingers, so they could become the new hands. For the main weapon Onua will be using, though, I'm definitely going to be using the drill. However, I don't like the stud shooter. Stud shooters seem really gimmicky to me, and I think the only one it really makes sense on is Kopaka, so I'm just removing the studs and putting them to the side with the little extra shot wheel. Minor edit to the drill, since I'm not using the stud launcher, I just took the shell off. I'm going to actually remove the stud launcher piece, and I'm going to reduce this drill, because having this really long conical drill is just really bizarre. By switching out this 4 long rod for a 3 long rod, we're now able to attach the drill bit without having all those little gray bushings. And where is it? We can have that going through our drill a lot more simply. However, that's only one end of the drill. By switching out the stud launcher for a piece like this, and the gear we took out, we can now have something really neat, because we can combine them to make a new action feature. This goes in and clicks in just like it did before, except now you have a little dial with which to turn your drill. We can put in that little spinning wheel of death, put in the gear and the double-ended axle stopper to add our drill on top and the bit of our drill. And now, not only do we have a drill that can turn, but the bit is a lot shorter. I'll just pop the shell back on, and voila, it looks almost identical, except now the bit is just a little bit shorter, and if you reach your finger in fact, you don't even need to get it in that much, you can just flick it at the top or from the back, and the drill will now turn. Plus there's enough finger room, you can basically just have your finger on the side where the top of the drill is and spin the drill. I really like this. Be glad I'm not showing my experimentation process, because the shoulder torso area is going to be a bear. The only thing I think I really want to keep from 2016's torso is the chest plate. These pauldron pieces, I actually really like the skeletal pauldrons, and of course the actual waist bit. So I'm going to basically take all of this off and see what I can put on from here. This is kind of a mess too. Keep in mind, Onua from 2015 has a massive gearbox. In fact, it's almost unusable because the gearbox is so large and there's a ton of friction because of how heavy it is. Okay, a little bit of a breakthrough in the torso. I have right now the main torso for 2016. I have two long pegs on the back. Those are just placeholders. I'll probably swap them out for something different. But I have this 2-axle, 1 stud piece with a two long red in the front. And I am deciding to put in I may either use 2 or 3s length rods with the little peg on the front, because that gives enough clearance for the 2016 torso piece. As you can see, you can hear it kind of connect in, but if you look, there's enough room in the pocket. This gives me enough room to also add on pieces like these Hordika eyes in order to add shoulders. If you attach it regardless, it fits in. However, as you can see, now I have these 2 balls for the pauldrons, the shoulder armor. However, these shoulders are massive. It's kind of funny, and I want to reduce the size down. Alright, the gearbox is a little complicated, and that's because I had to fiddle with it a lot just so it could keep the friction in the one arm. Now, I plan on keeping the right arm because I don't need the left arm to have the same amount of friction. So what I'm doing is I essentially unplugged the left arm, and I took out the blue pin and axle piece, and I'm replacing it with a 3-long axle. I also took the gear out here, and I'm replacing the gear with a kind of a mini assembly I'm doing that uses one of these 3 long mini plates. It has 2 axles, 1 on each end, and it has a pin in the middle. And I'm also using 2 of these gray half-length bushings. Essentially what I'm going to be doing is plugging this into the socket, the arm socket, and through the holes it's going to be plugged in to the connectors and the bushings, similar to this. It's difficult to get it in when you have it in, but I think that'll work really well. Unfortunately, I couldn't use something like one of these pieces or one of these because there's not enough clearance in between to fit a full length. However, I am able to fit the half bushings into the little sockets for where the gears are supposed to go. Alright, finally, there's the completed gearbox. It hasn't really changed too much other than I've taken out the gear and putting in a locking mechanism. So now when I turn the gear, only one arm turns, and it still has the same amount of friction. That was a basically overly complicated way of attaching it so it goes in. I've added 1 length bushings on the back of these pieces. It's not necessary to do that. I'm doing it just to see if there'll be enough clearance. I'm plugging in the body, and there is enough clearance for that. So meaning if you wanted to put in some kind of decoration, for example, Onua has these little black borak eyes. If you want to put those in as a decorative element, you could probably slip those in somehow. However, with the gearbox, it does look a little silly because he has these big, broad shoulders. Luckily, to cover up these shoulders, I'm reusing the crystal armor pieces from 2015's model. They snap in at the same place that the basically the original series hand pieces would go in, perpendicular to them. I have them floating above right now, but when you kind of float them down, they cover up some of that unnecessary arm size, and you can kind of angle them, like tilt them forward if you want to better hide that. It took a minute to get oriented correctly, but here we have it. We have the big drill hammer piece. I have this in the hands, and if you disconnect it like so, disconnect it at the bottom of the pole arm, you can now swing it. You can now swing it like a normal hammer, like they came with the 2015 Onua. Of course, getting it into a position that is able to plug in isn't always easy, but can be done with a little bit of finagling. Just have to be careful that you don't warp the bar. As you can see, my bar is kind of warping a little bit from the weird angle. So just fiddle with the hands until you have the bar as straight as you can get it. But now it's time to go to the heavily anticipated legs, at least I'm assuming are heavily anticipated. I'm deciding to toss the solid purple entirely because of the surprising amount of trans purple I am using. So here we have our original leg pieces. And I kind of like the color scheme used for the bottom legs. So the combination I like the most takes these large black panels and puts them forward facing on the leg. These legs will look a lot like 2016 Onua, but that's because, as you probably figured out from this entire designing process, that I really like the design of 2016 Onua compared to 2015. I'm putting the trans purple elements going sideways with these little gold, I guess you could call them maybe saddle pieces. It looks kind of like Liwa's chap pieces, like I mentioned in the previous video. It looks a lot kind of like the Liwa chaps. There's plenty of these gold pieces for you to accentuate your ankles with. Like that. For feet, I'm looking at, of course, the two different feet that came with Onua. These kind of mech feet, which I really like. They came with 2016. Those are some really nice legs right there. And so there it is, the exact same set, but now with trans purple on the thighs and lower arms as opposed to the solid purple. If you can't really tell that much of a difference, it's probably just because I have poor lighting, but it makes Onua look more energized, and you can see the black through the purple a little bit, and I don't know, I think it looks really good. Onua has 6 pieces of gold on him, as well as the gold on his torso piece, so having that gold is really good. But I don't think the crystal armor goes very well. Not only does Onua not have any crystally pieces, I mean, he has trans purple, but he doesn't have a lot of crystally looking pieces. And I don't really feel that this is necessary. Onua's basically the tank of the group, and so he has these massive shoulder blades like the tank characters normally do, and he has 6 of these armor reinforcements, so he is already fairly tanky. Now, if you want to switch the armor on the legs forward, be my guest. Personally, I don't think it looks as good, but it's up to you. I chose to go with the 2016 legs because I felt they had slightly better stability due to having a friction adder in the ankle. Unfortunately, with the feet I've designed, you cannot put, or not designed, but the feet I was using, you can't put in a friction adder, meaning the legs there are a little less stable. So go with whatever makes you comfortable. I'm choosing to use the 2016 feet. So basically this is kind of just an upgraded 2016, having a gearbox that doesn't work unless you split the weapon into just one hand, and, well, with slightly more gold. 2015's mask gives him a very shield-like look. He looks kind of almost like almost like a hockey mask, and it makes him look a lot more defensive. However, switching it out with the 2016 mask, I don't know, it kind of looks more like a motorcycle helmet. I'm really not sold on either mask, But I guess between the two, I kind of like this one a little bit. Actually, I kind of like this one a little bit less, going with the 2015 mask, I guess, just because thematically it looks more defensive. However, I want to do something with the 2015 chest plate, so let me fiddle a little bit and see if I can turn it into a really cool shield. One optional addition is taking off the purple armor on the wrist and putting on a tiny short length piece, one of these, onto the wrist, and you can attach the 2015 armor on the back of the arm. While it doesn't look like much in this position, it can flip around to be a shield. You'll want to keep it on the side, actually. So it kind of looks kind of bulky and uncomfortable like that. If you fold it over a little bit more, it looks a little bit better, but if you fold the arm in a way that can be holding a shield, now you have a very paladin-like character with a large buckler, not even a buckler, just a big wide shield with a powerful hammer that he can swing and apparently drill with. I like the way this looks. However, if you prefer the original Onua that just holds the giant drill, then that is up to you too. So there you have it, my Onua Superior Fusion. I'm not super pleased with it, but considering what I had to work with, I'm quite pleased. There is a ton of parts all over my desk, but now I have an Onua that's able to has a gear function in the arms, and he has different armor. He has more gold, and he doesn't have the weird crystal clear armor. He's got a shield. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'm Metagross Freak, and have a good one.